All right, so our first category is workflow automation. So over the years, Dynamo, who's a Dynamo fan? A couple people. All right, so hopefully Dynamo has saved you maybe some time, maybe some tedium. And so our first two speakers, Mike Engel and Sean Fruin, are going to talk about workflow automation, everything from using computational design for sketching to making whole HVAC systems. So hold on to your seats. This is going to be exciting. All right, so
first up is Mike. Mike, you want to come up on stage? So I've known Mike for a number of years now. Good to see you up on stage. I met him when he was first working with Formit. And big skeptic about Dynamo, was not really convinced that it was going to do things that he wanted it to do, but now it's his favorite felt tip pen.
That's pretty much it. All right, let's go. So that's me. Let's go. I don't need. I'm ready. Is it going? Okay, so I know you guys all love Dynamo and computational design, but I'm just going to tell you, you can't do it. You just can't use computational design for sketching. Does anybody disagree? So, but that's what I said back in 2007 when I learned about Grasshopper and a bunch of other computational tools. And honestly, this is what I did at the time, and I loved it, and I still do a lot of this type of sketching. It's very critical, but yeah, you can't do that in Dynamo. So why would we use Dynamo? So we'll just be done now. You guys good with that? We're just good? No, I'm sorry. That was what I said back in 2005, 2007. Totally honestly. So anybody that is here that agrees with that, you will come around. And so I've kind of taken this path of architectural design in my practice and the firms I work with, of really sketching with computation. And, just realizing that sometimes your assumptions from years ago aren't always the best. So what it comes down to is the pencil and computer really are no different. I used to think the pencil was absolutely what it was, but they're both tools. It's just like a hammer or a saw when you're building a house. You need both. You need to use both. Working them together is really what it comes down to. So be afraid to do that. So this is my, we'll say, toolbox today. It's really vast. It uses a whole lot of Revit and Dynamo that we all love, but it still uses tools like Sketchbook Pro and watercolors and Excel and Power BI and all these other amazing tools. But it's really about working between all of these tools to make deadlines happen. So with that, I'm just going to step through a really interesting project that happened last November right about this time. So we had a RFP come into the office. There was 2 of us that were available to work on it out of the 150-person firm. And we had just over a week to turn around a design from nothing to priced out and bid of 600 units, 2 buildings, and a dining hall. And of course, through the process, I had to use Dynamo to do it because we had no way to do it. My colleagues essentially described this as my design process, which drives them nuts, is no matter what phase of the project it is, because I'm using Dynamo, I'm always kind of just fixing things and redoing things, but using that has allowed it to do it. So after we were awarded the project, we had everything figured out. We stepped through it, client loved it, was amazed by it. And of course, the first thing we did was we said, forget the design we just gave you, we're going to rethink everything. And we restarted a process with Dynamo of looking through various options of how we fit the massing and its testing it on the site. And we were even doing this at the unit level, so this was a student housing project, but how do you arrange units? So we were using Dynamo to look at that and put quantities to it. And all of this was done in probably a couple weeks' time. So it was a super light team, but by using these tools, we were really able to show the client. And what we actually ended up doing was increasing the budget. And we showed them stuff like this. It wasn't just about showing them one design and saying, here it is, this meets your program, sign the check, we're good. We started working through sudden studies, massing studies, and using various options to help them explain their values and information. And what we learned a little bit about this is sometimes the design process, while we think it's simple, because we understand it. When you start to diagram it out, this is what we did for each design iteration. We were taking 2 Revit models, about 4 or 5 processes with Dynamo, and moving it through various processes to really help the client understand. It was all about working quickly and getting them the information. And we ended up showing them this graph. And it was really interesting because they looked at this in fright. They're like, I don't understand it. And that's exactly what we told them is you don't need to understand this. All you need to know is we understand it. We went through this research and gave them basically 2 options what optimized their site. And their comment back was, this was from a CFO, from an accounting position. Your process would make an accountant proud. The amount of data and analysis we did, the CFO was amazed at. And my principal thought it was a little weird, but I was pretty proud of that. But as part of that, sketching as a pen with Dynamo was absolutely critical. So no matter how much analysis we were doing during this process, we were still using the pen. And it wasn't one or the other. It was using both. It was looking at it both ways and really letting the process evolve in both hands and blending those together. So that's kind of just a really quick nutshell of a project, but we also use an amazing amount of Dynamo to look at projects in a different way. Sometimes we have clients that come to us and they want to, in this case, optimize massing related to the amount of rock that we're moving for blasting. So, being able to look at a project very quickly on a massing scale again and understand how much blasting in cubic yards of rock they have to move really helps our clients look at it. And even doing various schematic designs, we do a lot of panelizing and looking at skins and materials and colors, things that traditionally you could do by hand, by coloring them, but really just using these tools allows us to work fluidly between various teams and various colors and schemes and really optimize those materials. So, and the other piece of the design process that's really been amazing with using Dynamo is it's no longer, the documentation process isn't the limitation. There is no regular face in this, and if you just cut plans, the framers looked at us like we were nuts. You can't build it. And one solution is to say, well, you're not going to design that stuff. So, but we've kind of taken and just really just used it as a tool to allow us to document and make our designs real. And even starting to help our clients look at various park options. What are the trees and the scales and the values and going through various options of different scales. So, with that, the biggest thing that I will just remind you that computationals can be used for design. It's not one or the other. Talk to your principals, talk to everybody, but they are tools for early design. They are tools for sketching as well. So that's what I'll leave you at that. Just second guess your assumptions. So, and that is what I got. Lily?
More than a fad. Thanks, Mike.